anyway.
Yeah. Andrew, what's the weirdest interview you've ever had?
This could
Present company excluded.
It could be it. I think I had a really bad one at Sundance last year where somebody else decided to get creative with their interview method, and they said, well, we're going to play a game of speed chess with you while we do the interview. It's like, you don't understand. I am not good at chess. I know I made a movie about it, but if you're going to put the board in front of me, I'm going to have a lot of fucking trouble trying to play this game with you and listen to you and talk to you. And it didn't work out very well. He would ask me a question and I would go, and that went on for a long time.
Did your chess improve or did the questions?
I think I feel like I lost the game and the interview. I mean, we might have I think maybe there was a kind of a gentleman's draw, but
in the interview or the game?
In the interview.
Was that a written interview or is this on video?
I got to think they never aired that video. I got to think they realized their mistake. I felt bad. I mean, I feel like I'd let them down, but it was like I couldn't perform on command. It's the kind of thing. Maybe if we did a second take, I could just do better at just faking the chess game. But it was just too hard. I didn't have enough knowledge to draw on there.
I can't imagine what the Rush interview would have been.
The what?
For Rush. They're just speeding around. Do they just do that to every
the movie.
person?
I thought you were like the band because we're in Canada. So yeah.
Fair assumption.
Do you remember the movie SLC Punk?
Yeah.
What's the guy's name in it?
Matthew Lillard?
Lillard, yeah. And Lillard was on top of the world when that movie came out. Lillard was the man. But there's that great scene in that movie where they have the flashback to him getting turned on to punk, and his friend's like, I heard of this new kind of music, or maybe he goes to the friend, I don't know. One of the kids goes to the other. He's like, I heard about this new kind of music. Here, check it out. And he's like, no, Rush is technically superior. But then he hears the glory of punk rock and realizes that technical superiority is not the end all be all. And that's it's not fair to Rush. There is something to be said for technical superiority, but that's what I always think of when I think of Rush. I think Rush is technically superior, and I admire them for it.
Do you think SLC Punk is like a punk movie? Like it's a technically proficient movie. Like it's not a punk movie.
No, yeah, you wouldn't put it. But I remember, I think I saw it maybe with. Did I see it with Justin and Christian and those guys? I mean, that we were roommates in. Our roommate time overlapped with the ascendancy of Lillard, and I feel like we saw a bunch of Lillard movies in those days, like Justin had way more like legit kind of, I don't know if you call it punk, but certainly he has much more like punk rock spirit than me, and I think he dug the movie. I think he responded to it. It's not going to go in the Punk Rock Movie Hall of Fame, but it's okay.
Who saw films in the last 2 days, that we screened? About half. And were you guys seeing them for the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, appreciation for the first time today.
Nods?
Well, I don't know, technically not, because I had seen Funny Haha previously, but only because I was like, send me Funny Haha, so I can see it.
Oh, right, so we told you that we were going to invite you to this, and then you started furiously researching.
Like, I better prepare, and then now I'm sitting on a carpet, freaking apple cider.
What did your preparation yield?
Wow, do you want profound thoughts, or do you want... I like
just the facts.
I was into it.
No, I mean, what was research? Well, what is research?
No, there was no research.
Okay.
I watched that, and I watched Beeswax, which both...
Thank you.
But I didn't get a chance to watch Mutual Appreciation tonight, because, I don't know.
NDA.
Long day.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to get to it, though, courtesy of you. So.
How many people have seen Beeswax, though?
Yeah, that was my first Mumblecore movie.
Really?
How did you end up seeing that?
My friend texted me, what do you think of Mumblecore movies? And I was like, I do not know what you're talking about. She was working at Anthology in New York City, and Anthology films. So I felt really bad about not knowing what she was talking about, so I Googled it, and then I,
So Beeswax was the first one that came up, or was the only one you could get?
I don't know how, actually. I don't remember why I picked that, but I know I was thinking tonight when you were talking about Mumblecore, and I was just like, oh, God. And I was like, oh yeah, that was my first, because we were talking about sort of which movies I've seen and stuff. Yeah, and so I'd have to say that was my first.
How did it treat you? No.
It's
It's a big
okay,
moment
be
in
honest.
everyone's life. Their first
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Mumblecore movie.
Yeah.
You were late to the party though, man. I mean, I feel like that wasn't I feel like the height of Mumblecore press was a couple years before that.
Canada.
I could be wrong.
Canada's
I don't. Maybe not in Canada.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, we had the Generation DIY thing, but like a lot of people I know that are film fans tended to not really know about it. Like, not through a version, just not know. I don't know why that would be.
Get other things to do.
Did you think that, I don't know, it seems like there's an aversion, like there was a kind of,
Oh yeah.
like the press, especially critics, didn't want to go full throttle into it.
I certainly had the sense that there were people in the world or on the internet, whatever reflection that is of the world, who, I felt like surely there existed certain people who would say, oh, I hate Mumblecore, Mumblecore sucks, who had not necessarily seen, my movies or Swanberg's or any of the others that would be lumped in, like that it just kind of became a thing that you could dislike, understandably. I mean, the kind of shorthand that it represented was not necessarily that attractive, and I don't think, certainly none of us who made any of those movies ever set out to make a Mumblecore movie, and it wasn't anything that I think had much to do with what any of us thought we were doing. It's funny to me now that it's been around long enough that maybe it is an identifiable thing, or maybe a young person could go out and like with that as some frame of reference. Like somebody in their 20s maybe could go out and say, I'm going to make a Mumblecore movie. I don't think that was ever anything that I or anybody I knew ever did on purpose.
Who is the youngest person here?
How would anybody know?
Well, generally, you have an idea if you're super young, like maybe Lindsay's still.
Like maybe Lindsay.
I think it's me.
Yeah.
It's probably me. I'm
How old are
23.
you? 23? That's not that young.
So would
Whoa! Okay.
Not young anymore.
I'm gonna make a Mumblecore
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but sure.
But would you? Is that a word that you would know? Like, would you be like, oh, this is something I can do. I can make a Mumblecore movie.
I feel like yes, but maybe it also helps that I was a film student.
Sure. Oh yeah. To be clear, I'm only talking about film students.
Okay.
Like nobody else would care. Yeah.
But you must.
When people did first hear the term, though, because even at Funny Haha, I was surprised that some folks there hadn't heard of Mumblecore before.
Nobody ever. Every time I
Really?
people give me a weird look anytime I bring it up.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think it's bigger in the
like,
States.
oh,
right?
these weird movies.
That's
Sure,
Yeah.
I think it's also like a music journalism thing almost, right? Because like you don't refer to any film as anything
Well, it was
but
a
hardcore. Like,
yeah, it was a musician who made it up.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It seems like it's coming from slowcore, like Low or something, like those movies that were or those songs. I'm even calling them movies that were like
Right.
slower, more deliberate.
Sure.
But like, really, who's gonna catch that? Like, who is the ideal audience
For the word?
Yeah, like someone that pays attention to music criticism and is
I
like
guess.
watching movies.
Yeah,
and-
but it knocked it out of the park. I mean, the word has had incredible legs.
Mm-hmm.
It gave context for people to talk about those movies. 'Cause
Sure.
It was a different kind of movie. And you needed to have something to explain to people right away what it was, right? So if you give it a name like Dogma only really applies to those first 4 or 5 movies. And then after that, it's just an aesthetic. The movies have no relationship to each other, right?
Sure, sure.
I don't feel like the people in that movie tonight seemed particularly young, though. You know what I mean? Or maybe I've
That's
lost.
interesting. Wait 10 years and they'll seem young.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Or maybe I'm just like thinking of it more like when I'm like thinking about people that are younger than me now or whatever. I'm not thinking of myself when I was younger. You
Isn't
know
that a
what I
fun?
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no.
you know what I mean?
I always think this fascinates me that when that you always hold that frame of reference wherever you were, young and old is defined by that, and this will be true for the rest of your life, I think. But if I think back to a girl who I had a crush on when I was 15 and she was 17, like she still, I think of somebody who is very mature. I don't think of a 17-year-old. It's like you retain that. That's so interesting to me that I still have that picture in my mind. Anyway.
And I feel like I was more mature than
Uh-huh.
or whatever context you're talking about. Whatever, like you're thinking about generations and everything. But I guess that I'm just wondering if I would walk into a party of people my age right now and have people sitting there with like
How old are
putting
you
on
now?
dresses. I'm 34.
You're an adult.
I'm adult. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying if I walked into a party and like these girls were sitting around wearing wigs,
Right.
would that still happen? I think kind of still would. Is it just who I'm hanging out with?
I think it's Toronto, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
Plus, wigs are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a wig bag, so
Yeah.
we won't get into that. It's just for sex.
What were the ages?
Just like, don't touch the wigs.
Don't touch the wigs.
What were the ages in Mutual Appreciation? What would you have, like, if you had to literally say?
What the ages the characters were?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Especially the wig party specifically, the non-sexual wig party.
How old were the characters? I don't know. I mean, well, we know that one of the characters is a college student.
Yeah.
I guess that's as much as
Mature student,
we have to go on. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know that I was 26 when we shot it, and so that's where my head was. But some of the folks are a little older. Some of the folks are a little younger.
Would you be 34 walking into a party like that?
No, well, I was 33 when my son was born, you know, and yeah, I can't drink like I used to, and I don't really. You kind of stop going to parties, and then you kind of stop getting invited to parties, and so, which is fine, but yeah, I would hope I would, you know, have fun or be in the right spirit for that thing, but that wouldn't be my experience of that party, certainly.
I wonder if he thought that he was gonna have sex with one of those girls. Like, I would never stay at a party like that was that uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like,
He seemed pretty okay with it.
Yeah, I think he was having fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was just drunk and just didn't want to go home alone. You know?
he's open to the
Yeah.
universe. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Except when they made him put the
that's,
dress on, though. I don't think he really wanted.
He was less open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was that so hard for him?
Yeah, it seems like it's a very climactic scene in that
Yeah.
movie, like that quandary that he's in.
They really want him to wear the dress.
Yeah.
It's really harsh. The one girl
Yeah.
who says please.
She's great. She makes that scene go. That's Pam Corky, who plays that role, who's a filmmaker, and she, you know, I was telling you about kind of Justin devolving as we shot it. Justin got genuinely quite inebriated as we shot it, and I trusted him to do that, and he was giving me great material, but it was also a little frightening because, you know, the scene was always on the edge of completely falling apart, and in many takes did completely fall apart. But Pam Corky, who plays that role, Patricia, she just always, like, she kept it on the tracks, and it was awesome. It was such a fun dynamic. Anytime you make a movie, it's like it's you know, who are the people in the room, and if you have the right people in the room, then that's when magic happens. And that was just that was a scary night to shoot, but it was a really fun night to shoot because I thought, you know, this is the best scene in the movie, and it's because I got, like, Justin, Pam, Kate, and Mary Varn, and that's it. Like, they're the four right people to make this thing go, and it's such a pleasure when you feel like it might work.
Do they know him? Did they just
Kate? No. Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Kate certainly had a history with him because we'd all been roommates together at one point.
Okay.
And I think she'd been in a band with him at one point. But I don't know if he'd met. That's a good question. I don't know or remember if he'd met Pam or Mary before we shot that. But everybody was in the spirit that night.
So could you tell the Brett Ratner story? We can cut it out
No,
if you want.
I can't. I can't do it
I was
again.
slowly
I'm sorry.
segueing to parties with people.
I
you
know.
don't
No. I went to Brett Ratner's house. It was awesome. It was crazy. I want to get invited back again. It was weird. I can't do the whole thing. I'm
Did you show
sorry.
you Sinatra's watch?
No.
I think he's got it.
That's amazing. I didn't see that. I was. It was strange, but I didn't see Sinatra's watch. I mean, it's tip of the iceberg. I didn't see much.
Yeah. I'll just throw. I know that because of Punked.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's revealing a
They
lot.
punked?
When Hugh Jackman punked Brent Ratner. It was actually a pretty good one.
I bet.
Yeah, they pretended like he lit his whole fire. They made Hugh Jackman think that he burned down Brent Ratner's house.
Wait, who punked who?
Brent Ratner punked Hugh Jackman.
I see.
Yeah.
What is your Sinatra's watch? Like, if you were going to, like, bid a crazy amount for some object.
Well, I'll tell you the greatest object I have is a gift from a friend of mine in the movie Broadcast News, which I adore. William Hurt sleeps with was it Lois Childs, the blonde lady. He sleeps with the blonde lady, and there's a scene where, and after they've made love, there's great exchange of dialogue. Anyway, I don't remember what they say. Anyway, he gets out of bed but kind of wraps the sheet around his waist, and I have that sheet.
What?
Yeah, but it's actually I'm getting it kind of repaired now. It had a rip in it. And then my wife put it in the wash, and that she didn't realize it had a rip in it, and so the rip got bigger. And I was kind of embarrassed to I didn't know how to explain that I needed this sheet repaired, because it was an important part of cinema history and had been around William Hurt's naked body, and it needed to be preserved. But so I asked some costume design girls I know who understood the sentimental value and were really willing to help. So it's being repaired as we speak, and what a thing.
How did you come into that sheet? It was,
a friend of mine knew a lady who was the daughter of the production designer, something like that. I mean, I don't really know why she had it, but then he had it, and now I have it.
Does it come with a certificate?
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, but I freeze framed the movie, and I mean, it's definitely
The same sheet.
Look, maybe you know what? I mean, it could be. That's a big Hollywood movie. They probably had 15 sheets for each take.
What if there's just hundreds on eBay and this is.
There could be.
You've been punked. This is.
I might have been. And this is it. Now Kutcher's gonna walk out and.
Jack Shipman's
Yeah,
gonna.
sure.
His junk.
Right. Yeah, we have to test for that. Yeah.
Smells like hurt.
That's right. That's right. Well, my wife washed it though.
I know. I can't believe she watched it.
Did she know that?
Mm-hmm.
Did she knew that?
She knew what it was, but she didn't know it had the rip in it. And
Oh.
I think she was kind of annoyed that I had this sheet that I love so much, and so I think it was a little bit of if you're gonna have this weird, gross sheet just sitting in our house, then I'm gonna wash it.
Well, yeah. I was wondering, what do you use it,
Is
or?
it framed now? I mean,
No, well now it's in the shop, but no, I just have it folded up. I don't have a good place for it. I have a nice, spacious office in the house. But I need a more spacious one that I can hang a giant sheet on the wall.
Yeah, just fold it up and frame it in one of those
Yeah.
display boxes.
No, I should do something like that. I
Or
should do
just
something.
gonna be-
as a throw.
Yeah,
If you die, you should have it folded up like a military funeral, fold it up like the flag over it, and then put it on your-
I'm sorry. You began the sentence with "if you die."
If you die, yeah. Should we make it like a flag in the military funeral?
Sure.
Have the sheet folded up.
Sure. All right. Well,
That sounds like.
if you die,
Yeah. You can give me the sheet?
no, I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan for your
Look,
passing.
if you die, that's not a bad thing to say. If you
how
die.
every-
No,
That's
my
actually really good.
my-
That's actually,
It's
on the
very
off chance,
optimistic.
yeah. It's
How
optimistic.
could you ever die?
Yeah.
my son asks me all the time. When he's like Papa, when you gonna die?
He's thinking about that sheet.
Yeah. And then his other weird thing is he's really, because he's kind of getting his head around the concept of death, and so he'll talk about famous people that he's heard of, and just suggest to me that he's pretty sure they're dead. But and the one that he's fixated on, I'm not sure how this happened, but he's like, Papa, I think Andrew Dice Clay passed, and I'm like, no, he did. We would have heard, and maybe I can't tell it, and he knows that I can't tell him with absolute certainty that it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But it started to really kind of freak me out, and he thinks that at any given moment, he thinks that Andrew Dice Clay has just died, or that Steve Miller and Bill Clinton are the other people who will just tell me have just died.
Hold on. How does your 3-year-old son know?
Those are the people that he knows.
How is your-
That's his cosmology. I don't know. That's just
You
who we.
watch a lot of Andrew Dice
No,
Clay
that's just who we
stand-up,
talk
or-
about around the house. Oh, well, Dice Man comes up because my son sometimes says, "Oh," and I'm like, and I told him when he was 2 years old, I was like, "You sound just like the Dice Man," and so that's how he knows about him.
So you working with kids, you've mentioned that in some ideas you've had. Is there going to be a trajectory? Your
teenagers,
characters
yeah.
seem to get older with each film to
Sure.
some extent. Are you?
How old can they get? Yeah, I don't know.
What's the next?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah, I wrote a thing that has teenagers in it. I'd love to do it, but it would be hard. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have any. I certainly haven't set any trajectory or limitations. I mean, people used to ask, when I did the first 2 movies, you'd get the question. Someone raise their hand in the audience and say, So are you always going to make movies about people in their 20s? And I just thought it was such an odd question.
Was this
Probably not. but-
Beeswax is like they're in their 30s. Pretty,
Yeah, well, just because, lo and behold, I was 30. And so a part of it just has to do with, what's the air that you breathe, what's around you, and that's what you respond to. I would never say I'll never make another movie with people in their 20s in it, but I don't know. It depends what the movie is.
Have you pitched a Casper type thing? Like, what's the craziest thing that you've either pitched or even considered being attached to?
Well, I've pitched various kind of bad ideas, and I've tried to get hired on things that I wasn't going to get hired on. I don't know.
Is there any that stood out as like, oh, I'm attempting this, but if it happens, it could be bad news?
Oh, all the time. I mean, as we speak, there's like 2 or 3 things that I'm kind of, batting around that we probably shouldn't do. But let's see. I'm trying to think of what have been my dumbest Hollywood ideas. I don't know. I mean, and then there've just been like cockamamie ideas or things that I knew were not going to go anywhere. Some I talked to some folks from Darren Aronofsky's company. They were looking for TV show ideas, and we were talking about DeLillo the other day. I said, DeLillo's unadaptable, but the one DeLillo they should do, and then it should be a TV show. Is the secret pseudonymous DeLillo book about women's hockey, or about a woman hockey player in the NHL? You don't know it? Best hidden secret Don DeLillo book about hockey ever.
What's it called?
It's called Amazons.
Huh.
And it's like a DeLillo book, but much kookier. He wrote it under a pseudonym, Cleo Birdwell. That's the main character's name. And so it purports to be Cleo Birdwell's like diary of playing in the first woman ever in the National Hockey League. It's bizarre. It's a completely bizarre book, and it's not probably a smart thing to pitch as a television series to anybody who's looking to be in business. But I said we should.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could.
Yeah, I know. In Canada, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I didn't know my market. Yeah.
Maybe this is a good point. Like how many people have seen Beeswax? You've seen Beeswax. You've seen Beeswax. Emma's seen Beeswax. And you call it your Canadian film, but I don't think anyone knows that. I don't think that's like common knowledge.
Right.
Like, could you discuss why?
Well, I could be wrong, but I felt what I always on the first 3 movies, I felt like on the first one when I made Funny Haha, I think in the back of my mind I thought I want to make a French movie, because the French make movies where they just follow a pretty young woman around for 2 hours and that's the movie. I thought that I want to make that kind of movie, and not that that's all that is, but in my mind I was trying to be French, and when I made Mutual Appreciation, I think I was trying to be Italian, and I want to hang around at parties all night in the middle of the movie, and that felt very Italian to me. And when I made Beeswax, I wanted to make a Canadian movie, which I think is why it's my biggest flop, but that. Because there's something, and we were talking about this the other day, that American, Canadian movies are very strange to us in the States, because they're like, as Canada is, very familiar but a little off. What's that? Uncanny Valley. Your whole country is an uncanny valley for our whole country. But I always liked that. I mean, I always responded to that. Even as a kid, there'd be these weird little Canadian movies that would, occasionally make it down to us. And I just kind of enjoyed that. Or even we talk about like the peanut butter solution, like something like that. It's, it's fascinating.
Oh, that's Canadian?
Yeah.
So Canadian.
I haven't seen it for so long.
Yeah, it's very odd.
It's
Yeah, like
traumatized a
child
lot of
pubic
people.
hair thing.
Yes.
That was coming up in
Yes.
a Canadian movie for
Yes.
sure.
No, but
Yeah.
what was so Canadian about Beeswax?
Well, that I think like this idea that I could get away with making a movie that quiet.
Okay.
That it was just it's a very. I'd already made 2 quiet, gentle movies, and I thought I'm going to make one that's even more quiet and even more gentle, and it's just. I don't know. It's hard for me to put my finger on what I thought was Canadian about it, but that. There's a kind of warmth that I associate with Canadian because you guys are polite.
Don't want to sue each other.
And you're
Not
right.
as litigious.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
That's and I don't know. It just
They the kind of conflict aversion though that you're describing, I think, the politeness.
Right.
That's in all.
Well, in that, and in that sense, I've always,
Yeah.
felt that I'm an honorary Canadian.
Because you don't want to just fight someone.
Yeah, and in the U.S., you're supposed to just beat people up.
But there's like competitiveness in all of them. Like it's
Sure.
something that's interesting. Do you find that people are like generally competitive? Like even if they're not trying to be, even if they're not trying to steal their friends' girlfriends or.
Well, sure. I mean, that's just part of life, of course. Of course.
Do you feel a competitiveness just in this room?
With everyone in this room.
Absolutely, I feel it. I feel it immediately.
That we all want to fight, or
No, that there's like competitiveness is like imbues everything. Like getting this thrown in my face, but also like.
Hey,
who's
Bob, can you do this? Do we have more of this?
Of course.
Okay.
who's talking, who's not talking, whatever.
outage,
Like
like each other. Like
yeah, oh yeah.
You gotta have to quit.
We've already established various nerd like hierarchies, trajectories maybe. Yeah, it's like a human nature thing, I guess.
Sure,
When
and
you get people together.
yeah, well, and it doesn't have to be a destructive thing all the time, but yeah, Lord knows I feel competitiveness with my peers and with everything, and I think you can keep that in check and find a healthy balance. It doesn't have to mess you up. It can mess you up.
Is it when you get older? Is it less? Is that something that like mellows or?
Well, you just have less time for it, I think. Maybe, I don't know, but you have less time for everything. That is a lot of whiskey.
It's not always negative. That's what I'm getting.
It's
at.
not always
Yeah.
negative. It's not always
I think it's something that you just accept to some extent.
Sure.
But like in beeswax, it's like maybe you see it a little bit more as having a negative quality if you don't grasp onto it, like if you don't own it.
Okay. Yeah. It can be I mean, so many things in life can be destructive. I'm like you all in Canada. I'm polite, and I'm shy and retiring, and I am conflict averse certainly, but I feel like that can be a limitation like anything, and that can get you in trouble. But I have a real, I think, legitimate kind of fear of unleashing anger. I mean, I do believe that, like, I think there's one school of thought that says if you have strong emotions, if you're angry about something, you gotta let it out, and if I'm pissed at you, I should just fucking let you know, and I should just unload whatever it takes, get it out there, don't let it fester, and things will work themselves out in due time. And I don't really believe that entirely. I don't believe that that's purely healthy. I mean, I think there are healthy aspects of it, and obviously there are bad things about holding something inside forever. But for me, like, anger, I think when you unleash it is a destructive force. And you have to be prepared for whatever it's going to destroy. You have to know that that's going to happen and accept that that's going to happen, and not just say, well, it's okay because I had to, I had to respect my anger, so the rest is collateral damage. I mean, do you want that damage or not? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Is that heavy?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, that's why I don't like to argue with people. But I respect that some people do like to argue with people.
Did you ever lose your shit on set?
Yes, but that's the only time I you won't hear me yell often in life. Occasionally in my marriage, and occasionally on set, but that's it's infrequent just because set is so stressful and there's so much going on, and usually, I mean, the thing is, when I do yell or when I do get upset, it's not. Even my son, laughs at me. Like it's not frightening. I used to be a substitute teacher. I worked as a substitute teacher in Boston, and being a substitute teacher is an awful job, but the people who are good at it are the ones who can scare the kids, because that's really the only thing you can do in that job, is just be intimidated. So it's like if you're kind of ex-military or whatever and you walk in the room, that might work, but you don't know the kids' names. Like there's just nothing, you can't charm them, or you have nothing else to go on except possibly fear. But I didn't have that. If I yelled at the kids, they laughed at me, and I understood why. It sounds funny when I laugh. It sounds funny when I yell. So yeah, it's not my strong suit.
Can you tell that story you told me about the funny haha prints in that that company was going bankrupt? And
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
That's a great story.
It's okay. There's another story about realizing you're a bad person, you know, and specifically with regard to being a filmmaker. We our first day of the shoot on the movie, we shot all our footage. We taped up the cans, and we sent it off to our lab. And we decided to work with this lab in Pittsburgh because they were, I don't know, they were affordable, whatever. We sent it off to the lab, get a phone call, I think the next day. I don't even know how we found out. I don't know if it's a phone call or what, but it turns out the lab has just gone bankrupt. And they have our film there. And so maybe they called us and said, oh, sorry, we're not going to process your film. And I talked to somebody or asked around, or, I was having this conversation with somebody. It's like, yeah, I don't know what we're going to, our lab just went bankrupt. We have to find a new lab. And they were saying, well, get your film the fuck out of there, because when a company goes bankrupt, everything can be seized, and probably, the sheriff is on the way there to padlock the door right now, and you'll never get your film out of there. And so I happened to have one friend at the time who lived in Pittsburgh, Rachel Weber, and I called up Rachel Weber, and I said, Rachel, I need you to do me a huge favor. Can you go to this address, go to this lab, do not take no for an answer, just get my film out of there. And she said, sure, I'll do it, no problem. And I said, thank you so much. The next day, I think she calls me, and in her very strained voice, she says, I was on my way to the lab, and I was riding my bike down there, and I got hit by a car, and I broke my jaw. And this is when you realize you're no longer a good person. When you say to her, oh, I'm so sorry, that's terrible. When can you get down there? And she did, pretty soon thereafter. And she got my film out, and God bless her. And I felt terrible about myself for that being my concern in that moment. But I thought, fuck, I'm a filmmaker. This is it. It felt like a kind of weird, like I'd passed some weird filmmaker test of did I value my project above human life, or friendship or love, were these things as important to me as my film? And
ultimately, yes. No.
I don't know.
That's just the two.
Is there a movie that made you want to make movies?
I don't know, all of them. It was all I was cared about. It was when I don't remember the time before I was a movie nut. It's just been as long as my memory goes.
What's the first one?
I don't know.
Remember watching?
I don't know.
What's the earliest memory you have of movie watching?
Well, you kind of don't know if they're real memories or not. I know. I have this. I think maybe I have this feeling that in, preschool we watched a 16mm print of Freaky Friday, but I might be imagining that. I'm not sure. My mother claims that and this is wrong. My mother says that she took me to see Alien when I was a few months old, but I was 2 when Alien came out, so that can't be true. She might have taken me when I was 2. I'm not sure. I don't know. And then I think the ones that really stick out is it's sort of, I think around 5 when you start to retain things in your conscious memory, or at least that was the case for me. So then that's 82, and so that's E.T. and that's Star Trek 2, which I knocked my socks off, and Rocky 3, which was a huge made a huge impact on me. And I remember that moment, or that of discovery of that understanding. Oh, the 3 means that they have made 2 other movies about Rocky. I didn't know that going in. I was just experiencing this thing called Rocky 3, and I think at some point it finally occurred to me to ask, what's that 3 about? Why do they call it 3? There's more Rocky?
Is this why you're curious about doing sequels yourself?
Well, I loved sequels as a kid. I loved, and I'm sad. I'm so sad that we're now in the reboot era. I don't care. I hate reboots. I don't care about reboots. There's no creativity in a reboot. There's some creativity. At some point, at some point, the studios and now they can just do a new Spider-Man every 10 years, and at some point they realized nobody cares about continuity. But before they figured that out, you would have this, like Friday the 13th, which would go on for 12 movies, and they would make these bizarre attempts at continuity, and it would shift a lot. I mean, like the rules of how you can or can't kill Jason would kind of be a little different movie to movie. But there was some idea that like, no, these things all happened, and they all happened in this sequence, and that took real creativity, I thought, or that was something that was always enjoyable to me to watch. Like, how are you you've killed this guy 6 times. How are you gonna just play off that he's back again?
That's why I got into the Fast franchise. I didn't watch any of them, and then by the time they got to 6, and people are loving it, and I'm like, okay, how do they sustain this franchise?
Right.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna check this out and see like what the deal is. And it's not linear. I don't know if you watch them, but
I watched the first one.
yeah, they don't go in chronological order. That's
Right.
that's one way they do it. They
That's
jump
crazy.
around.
You mentioned Terminator 2, and that was like part of a stretch in like the early 90s where the sequels always outdid the predecessors. So it was like Terminator 2, and then the Ninja Turtles sequel.
In my mind, for the longest time, that was like Terminator 2 was like the exception to the rule.
No way.
Terminator and Empire, they were like the exceptions to the rule. And then now with superhero movies, they're getting like the sequels are often better. Like Dark.
Oh, come on, Secret of the Ooze is
Aliens.
Godfather
amazing.
2 and Godfather 1 are the
Aliens
same.
is not better than Aliens.
I don't know if that's after your time, like a.
Secret of the Ooze, I saw that, and I saw Turtles in Time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, where they go back to ancient
Turtles in
Japan.
Time was terrible.
It's terrible.
Secret of the Ooze is amazing now. That's an amazing film, and Home Alone 2 is better than Home Alone 1.
Yeah, that's fine.
Two Slays Home Alone 1.
Yeah, for sure.
And also Terminator 2 came out, I think, in a time when the promotional element of...
Yeah, like I remember everybody wanted those glasses.
Something that I've always
Everyone wanted
wondered.
the Schwarzenegger
So did
glasses.
this when? Okay, I don't know. You're older.
I'm old.
Yeah, you're older. How clear was it from the trailers for Terminator 2 that Arnie was good this time, or was it actually? Did you lose your shit when he takes up the
that's
rose
a good
petals
question.
And he's like, gonna shoot the
Yeah,
2000, and you're just like, oh my god, he's good. Was that crazy?
I don't
Never thought
recall.
about that.
I don't recall. I feel like we'd been prepped for that. I feel like it was in the promotional materials.
They needed to keep that secret.
Yeah.
Sure. No. Well, no, because what they were advertising. I mean, what everybody was so fucking excited about, and what's still exciting when you watch that movie is like the birth of awesome CGI. I mean, that's what the whole story was.
But I wonder if you could have cut a trailer for that in a way that like Robert Patrick would have looked like he was the good guy.
Does wear a cop out for a lot of it.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
One thing that
Water.
I find interesting about Beeswax, were there like legal pot boilers that were influencing that? Like, were you watching like the Pelican Brief?
I mean,
or
there's
The
kind. I
Firm?
mean, I didn't sit down with those for research, but yeah, that was my legal thriller. I mean, I think because I always thought that was such a funny concept, the legal thriller.
It had its day, and it was a long day.
It was a long day, but the idea, but like I'm knock wood. I've never been too deeply enmeshed in any kind of legal problem, but my impression of it is that it is not thrilling. And so I like in some weird way I was trying to borrow some, not much, a little of the mechanics of the legal thriller to do something else, to do a legal non-thriller.
I remember reading like you talking about that you were working on a legal thriller
Sure.
before it had come out.
Right.
And-
I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, like my immediate visual reference was like a John Grisham.
I never read a
courtroom
Grisham book again.
drama.
Yeah.
Like The Client. Or
There's a
something.
parking garage, someone's running through it.
I should have done it. I don't know. I mean, does Grisham even write those anymore? What
He
is-
does actually.
Does he really?
Well,
Yeah,
I know he still writes, but
No.
does he still write
Yeah, and
legal
they all
thrillers?
start with still.
They
It's
what?
funny, they all start with
The Witness.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It's
Those
funny
are good.
because I read like for the longest time, and recently I went and looked in the section, and I knew he'd been like doing some other stuff as well, but I was
Right.
looking at the titles and I was like, wow, he's written like as many since I stopped, and I read at least a dozen.
Right.
He's in like 2 dozen.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh my god,
He's still
speaking
going.
of the era of redos,
yeah. Please.
and just, I mean, not V.C. Andrews, does anyone know who V.C. Andrews
I am fascinated by V.C. Andrews.
is? Okay,
Here we
do
go.
you know that they remade Flowers in the Attic?
Yes.
Whoa.
I just found that out the other day, and I was like, my concept of redos and why, and like being able to answer like why.
Sure. It was a hit, right? I mean, it was.
What's that?
Believe it was a hit. The TV miniseries that they did, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
Americans know about it.
V.C. Andrews wrote, I think, I want to say 5 or 6 books in her lifetime. Then she passed away. then a guy, I think his name is Andrew Niederman. I'm impressed with myself for knowing this, and maybe I'm not. You're not supposed to talk about this. Was hired to be and has been V.C. Andrews ever since, and has written like 40 more books.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
How's that even?
And I met a guy that I know like kind of knew the new V.C. Andrews, and I was like, tell me more. I want to know tell me more about the guy who's been V.C. Andrews for the last 30 years. But he didn't have much to tell me. But I'm fascinated by that whole. I mean, speaking of the whole series things and keeping something alive, it's like that's keeping a. I mean, that's the weirdest kind of. I don't know, artificial resuscitation. I mean, somebody who's been dead for a long time, whose brand lives on, and there's new V.C. Andrews, and they follow a pretty specific formula.
I didn't even know if V.C. Andrews was still writing books.
Yeah.
Or that.
I think maybe yeah.
How far is he taking
She's a lady.
her? Like, does he dress like her?
No. He just writes the books. Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah.
That's the movie. That's
Yeah.
the movie version.
I don't think he does public appearances as her. I think he just writes the books. But finally, the fucking snacks.
Oh,
Christ. Can I? You want to hear another anecdote?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So you know, this is a dumb anecdote. This is goofy. I was at, Tom Noonan, the actor Tom Noonan.
Absolutely.
Fascinating dude. Fascinating actor. Really interesting actor. I met him, this is a long time ago, it was 10 plus years ago, and maybe 10 years ago, and he said, if you want to come check out, if you want to come audit one of my acting classes, I said, absolutely. And I went to his, and it was fascinating. And then there was a party, like the acting class party that I went to, and it was sort of awkward, and I was kind of, I was shy, and I was being a wallflower, and I was just standing there, and I started talking to some actor guy there, and kind of making conversation, and very awkward. And the guy goes, this party would be a lot cooler if there were chips here. And I was like, I know. They should have. I agree. There should be potato chips. There should be tortilla chips. There should be salsa, guacamole. And he goes, no, chicks. And then,
That's what I heard the first time you said it.
yeah.
I heard chick.
Oh, well, you heard it right. I heard it wrong.
I think
It's broken telephone. When it comes back around, it's like gotten wrong and then right by the time it gets all the way around.
Right. No, and yeah.
What were Tom Noonan's thoughts? Chips or
He was across the room at the time. I didn't get his thought.
Are you happy that we're not talking about computer chess?
Yeah.
Does it seem like that's like a structuring absence?
What?
It's just like a structuring absence. Like you notice it because it's not there.
Right. No, it's fine.
I feel like now we're talking.
I have a question.
Now we are.
I feel like this could totally
my
be off
segue,
record, so
my
like-
very
Okay.
favorite
Yeah, there's like 4 cameras playing this,
know.
but sure.
I love reality television like Laguna Beach in the Hills.
Okay.
And someone said to me recently, they were like, when I first saw Laguna Beach, I thought it was scripted, and they thought the dialogue was so genius because it was so real.
Sure.
And it was 2003, and people were actually talking like that.
Right.
And when I was watching Funny Haha, it came out pretty much exactly the same time that The Hills was really
Sure.
popular.
Right.
I guess I wonder, like, in terms of writing your dialogue, how much do you feel like is natural ad-libbing based off what the script was saying and, like, where the plot points were going, like, what the actors were doing? Was it kind of inherently natural for them? Was it, kind of how you were writing because that's what you were used to in your world? That was the way people were talking then.
Yeah, I think both. I mean, I think absolutely. That was our world. I mean, it was surprising to me especially with that first movie when I had no idea what anybody would think of anything, to then take that out into the world and see people talking about, look at how this generation communicates. I mean, now I think I have the perspective that I can see what somebody else would have seen in that, but to me, everything about it was perfectly normal and natural, and of course that's how people communicate.
Yeah.
And I was sort of surprised to find out that wasn't considered normal communication. And maybe now more it is, I don't know.
Something you were saying earlier about how you retain this idea of something
I find that interesting.
in the perspective of the time you were in, like having a crush on that 17-year-old.
hand
Still today, she
just
seems
that. I was
super
just
mature to
filming
you,
you.
even though she was 17-year-old.
Right.
When I was watching Funny Haha for the first time yesterday,
It's more of a mise
I'm
en
23
scene.
now. Marnie is 23 when the film,
Right.
and it seems like a world of, like my world is so different from hers.
Sure.
Granted, I come from a different place. And different
Sure.
I wonder if that's like a decade of difference in terms of like societal standards for what 23-year-olds should be doing now,
Right.
which I don't think I can really adapt to, and I don't think Marnie does either.
Right.
In that position in the world in 2001, 2002.
One when we shot it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's weird. There was like a strange distanciation for me to look at her and be like, she's my age now.
Right.
We have nothing in common
Right.
except for the way we communicate with people, which is like,
That's fascinating that was retained.
yeah.
About
Does
like
Mumblecore,
people's
like, has a
lives.
term
Like,
for
no one
it?
wants to see that. They either want to
In
many ways, or they want like the biggest
Like, it's
spectacle
cool that you
imaginable.
can give it a name or an overarching name for this subgenre of films that we can all be discussed about freely. But it's to say, like,
Of course. But is that, like much greater artists than I have
So good.
because I hate, let's see,
take it.
yeah, of course. I mean, it's just, I'm to see your film and I don't know, pointless.
Eric Masanaga, the sound he made it. I accidentally repeated it to him. Blackberry, especially.
You know what? I